What up, world? Welcome to episode 102 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, NBA's end of season review edition. I thank you guys as always watching, plugging in. As always, like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, YouTube, and as well as on Podbean. I thank you guys as much as, again, for always plugging in and watching and commenting and just, you guys without this, again, as I always tell you, without you guys, this show wouldn't be possible. So I thank you. Like I said, hopping into this episode 102 is going to be digging into NBA end of season review. We're going to be touching on the best in the East and Western Conference, and also, in my opinion, the worst in both conferences. Also, we'll be touching on Taylor Jenkins being, unsummarily let go by the Memphis Grizzlies with, at that point, 9 games now with 8 to 7 games left in the season. So a lot to unpack and to get into. Hopping right into it, though, like I said, I'm going to hop into my best of the Eastern Conference. I got to give a lot of credit to, the East this year because, I kind of sleep on the East because I automatically assume that, whatever dominant team has got the East in a stranglehold is automatically going to do it because that's just how it's been, statistically speaking, for the past, 10, 15 years. However, I thought Boston was going to be the number 1 team coming into this season in the East, and it was the Cleveland Cavaliers. So got to give the Cavs credit. With Donovan Mitchell, Okoro, Mobley, and, just the way these guys have played, Garland as well, the way these guys have played has just been outstanding. Kenny Atkinson has had these guys rise to the challenge. Like I said, they're 59 and 15. They're playing some of their best basketball. I think, honestly, as far as the playoffs are concerned, I have no idea what the cards may hold for them. Because in all honesty, we know how the playoffs work. You could be in it. You could be the best team in the league all year, playing well all year. And then as soon as, shit hits the fan, the playoffs come around, you get beat by a lower seed team and then you're out of it. So there's no telling how things may shape out as far as that may play out. But I got to give the Cavs a lot of credit. Definitely been the biggest surprise of the Eastern Conference. Probably the biggest surprise of the NBA this season. Next, got to give it to, and this team, again, when you're talking about championship poise, championship pedigree, how does a team respond after winning and getting over the hump and overcoming the adversity? How do they respond? Well, it looks like the Boston Celtics have definitely responded. I mean, guys, I don't know if y'all noticed, second best team in the Eastern Conference, 55 and 19. I mean, still only 19 losses on the season, which is crazy, and the season's about to be over. The Celtics have been phenomenal. Shot a lot of threes, not really a fan of that, but that, I guess, is just the way the NBA is now. But anyway, Celtics offensively and defensively still, pretty good team. Look like they're definitely going to be, in my opinion, going to be the Eastern Conference representative in the NBA Finals. But again, you got to give them credit for just showing up and showing poise and not folding and succumbing to the bullshit. Like a lot of teams do, they fall into this malaise where they get comfortable and they think, I don't have to really worry about this because, we're the champs and we don't have to turn it up. Y'all know this shit. I'm not going to turn it on or turn it up until, the postseason is around. And the next thing you know, your ass is home and there is no more postseason. So it's just one of the things where you got to be mindful when you're talking about preparing for a postseason and preparing for a season and the mindset. Celtics have definitely delivered in all aspects of that. Next would be, and this to me, this is probably bigger surprise than the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, be the Detroit Pistons. Detroit Pistons have been outstanding this year. First major move was getting rid of Monty Williams and bringing in JB Bickerstaff, getting somebody that can adapt to the young players. They're currently constructed, they are 42 and 32. So the Pistons have definitely shown a poise and shown promise this year. Definitely a nice young up-and-coming young team. I don't know how far they'll go in the postseason. I don't know how things will shake out as far as that may be concerned. But I got to give the Pistons credit. They've definitely shown up and rose to the occasion. And coaching has definitely helped get them there. Cade Cunningham ascending to the next level. I mean, it's just a lot of little things, but Jaden Ivey taking the next step. But nonetheless, got to give credit to the Pistons and shout out to them for being a dumpster fire for the past 5 years and not really being really entertainable. I mean, to be honest, guys, I don't think they've made the playoffs since Blake Griffin was playing for the Pistons. So that should go into itself right there. As we go a bit further, you have the Milwaukee Bucks, who gotta get a Bucks credit. Currently sixth in the Eastern Conference, not currently playing their best basketball. Not playing their best basketball, but at this time, currently presently constructed. With Dame Lillard out, with them not having the necessary recourse and necessary duo that they thought they would have throughout the full length of the season. Because, in all honesty, guys are going to get injured, but when you expect to have Lillard and you expect to have Antetokounmpo throughout the year, you do expect to have a great record. Sixth, currently. And I say sixth because, let's be honest, they were fifth when Lillard had went out. So they're sixth now. As long as you hold serve, you won't slide to eighth place. Because, to be honest with you, I think they got about 6 or 7 games left. So it's possible. They can't just, put their foot off the gas and act like everything's fine. They're only 40 and 33, which seems like a Doc Rivers-led team. I can't. It sucks because Milwaukee has the type of roster that's capable of really dominating and winning the Eastern Conference and being in the NBA Finals. But I just can't trust Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has been a walking epitome of mediocrity as far as head coaches. He's the type of guy who really, as I previously reported on here, he really feels like being, coaching teams up and getting to 3 games and not sealing the deal is essentially a great mark as a coach. I don't know how that is, so you can't really trust them with that. With all that being said, into context, Lillard will be back, they believe, at some point in the postseason, so we'll see. But they will have to definitely hold serve. But I got to give them a shout out because, especially after how last season ended, not really living up to the hype, in that first round and getting knocked out, definitely got to give them props. But we'll see how they play this year because the pressure's still on. And then last but not least, rounding this out, this was not based off record because this team fucking sucks. But I like the pieces that they have in place and the move and direction where they're going forward. And that's the Toronto Raptors. Now, they're currently 11th in the Eastern Conference. They're 27 and 47. However, getting Brandon Ingram out of basketball purgatory, a.k.a. the New Orleans Pelicans, getting him in Toronto, pairing him up with Scotty Barnes and some of that youth on that roster, that young, up-and-coming youth. I got to give the Raptors credit. They at least have a plan going forward. I like Ingram, especially when he's healthy. He still lacks defense, but I definitely feel like going forward, the Raptors have a legitimate plan and young pieces to contend in the East. So shout out to them for definitely doing that. And now we obviously flip to the best of the Western Conference. Now we're going to the best of the West. If you say anything outside of Oklahoma City Thunder, you just don't have a pulse. 62 and 12, best record in the Western Conference. Shaigilgeousalexander, SGA, is taking that next step. This team is, contending and looks like they've reached another level compared to what they did last year. But as we all know, none of that fucking matters if they don't get to the finals and at least contend. This team definitely should be in. They choked last year against the Mavericks. Luka and Kyrie were on a roll. But this year, because you got Luka and LeBron, so you got to keep an eye out for that. But they definitely could beat any team in the Western Conference. And I honestly feel like they should be the Western Conference Finals representative, or Western Conference representative in the finals. But I don't know. Being young, I think SGA, like I said, is taking the next step. And Jalen Williams is taking the next step. And I like their roster. Lou Dortz. I like their roster a lot, but Chet Holmgren. But I'm just not sure that they're going to be prepared again because they choked last year and we all kind of thought they were ready. Now, they definitely look ready this year, but we shall see. We're going to hop on the Grizzlies, and like I said, I'll be touching on their situation in a little bit. Obviously, firing Taylor Jenkins, which never fucking great. But getting Ja Morant back this year has been, a godsend. Desmond Bane's been healthy. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA and obviously a top 6, top 7 offense. So definitely shout out to the Grizzlies, man. They definitely have lived up to the hype. I don't think this recent tailspin that they've been in is indicative of their whole season. Now, they have struggled against good teams. I believe the record is like 11 and 20 or 11 and 21. They have definitely struggled against good teams. However, I will say that I think that they are ready to take the next step. It's just that I don't think it'll be this year. And who's the next coach is going to be a great question, but I'm definitely giving them props as of currently constructed going into the season. They definitely have lived up to the hype and responded to a lot of it. Next would be the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, how you be remiss. This team was in the midst of the play-in tournament. They get lukadoncic, and then their playoff ceiling goes from potentially first, second round to now Western Conference Finals, maybe NBA Finals. I'm not so fast to jump and say NBA Finals. I think they'll probably get to, at best, Western Conference Finals, at the worst, knocked out in the second round. But got to give the Lakers credit. They fucking pulled it off again, getting another great one. And last, rounding out my best teams, and this being in the West, the Houston Rockets. Imeudoka has got this team playing on another fucking level. I mean, they're literally the second best team in the West. It's currently constructed. Their record is 48-26. Between his coaching, the ascension of Jalen Green, Asura Thompson, the roster developing, getting Dylan Brooks, getting Fred VanVleet, getting the necessary veterans they needed on this roster. The Rockets have definitely been one of the best teams in the West. I would argue that Ime Udoka could definitely be Coach of the Year based on the job he's done, especially in the Western Conference, coming from the East to the West with that roster. He coached these guys up and has them playing out of their minds. And it's definitely a beautiful thing to see. I'm not sure that Houston is going to be a threat to any major teams in the Western Conference, but, as we shall see, because we know the West will definitely bring the best and worst out of anybody. So we'll see from there. Going a step further, we're going to look into, nonetheless, the development for the Rockets has just been outstanding. And like I said, interested to see what may lay out for them or behold for them in the West going into the playoffs this year. And now we're getting to the worst. The worst will start in the Eastern Conference. I think it goes without saying it's the Philadelphia 76ers. What a fucking disappointment this year. I told anybody that would listen, I rang the alarm in the offseason. This team was not going to be good. Getting Paul George was definitely a mistake. It kind of shocks me with the Sixers because they have not been right since Jimmy Butler left. When Jimmy Butler was there, it seemed like this team was in championship contention. They were on the cusp. And it seems like ever since they let him go and they preferred to pay Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, however you want to take it. Jimmy says Tobias. I'm pretty sure that's probably what it was. Joel Embiid said Ben Simmons, whatever. Like I said, you guys have checked the articles out in the description. I have them within this video. But nonetheless, since Jimmy has not been there, they've been ass, in my opinion. They've just been mediocre, flashy at best, but nowhere near what they needed to be. Paul George has just been a dumpster fire. If the Clippers were I keep bringing this scenario up to people, and I need people to really, I stress emphasis on this so people can understand. The Clippers got rid of a guy and kept another player, Kawhi Leonard, who doesn't play back-to-backs, rarely stays healthy, doesn't play full seasons. They kept him over Paul George. Now, is Kawhi a better player than Paul George? Abso-fucking-lutely. Now, that being said, when you say, well, wait a minute, why is it that they didn't give Paul George an extension? No, they could have kept Paul George. Paul George's ass. You guys are still feeding into that hype that he had when he was at Indiana, still giving him that energy and that vibe. He is not it. And it has not been it everywhere he has went. He's been the problem or part of the problem to a fucking extent. Whether he's, playoff P or podcast P, it's all just piss poor performance. That's all it is. That's all it is. And most importantly, the person who bears the most culpability for this is Daryl Morey. You fucked this roster up. You got to get off this contract. How are you going to get off it? I have no idea. But you didn't do the right investigating and proper shopping going into the offseason. You tried to grab something just, to get anything with any name value, and you did that. And now this team is nowhere near prepared. I mean, yeah, if Embiid was healthy, and which is even more insidious when you think about he played in the Olympics and then, he hasn't given his team a full season of health, I think, but once in his career, So it's just insane. It's just insane. The whole situation in Philadelphia is a shit show. Definitely be keeping an eye on that throughout the offseason to see how that all shapes out. Next would be the Chicago Bulls. And I only say worse in this aspect of because the Chicago Bulls are going to be in the play-in tournament. They're going to be contending, but they essentially swapped out some, Zach LaVine and a couple good guys on their roster to essentially be in the same spot. And I say worse because they're trying to hit the reset button and put themselves in a position to where even if they got to be bad for a couple years, as long as they got some great young talent that they can, build and inject hope into their fan base and into their organization, it'll give you the necessary motivation for that team to go forward. That being said, when you keep getting, the Lonzo Balls or the Josh Giddeys, shout out Josh Giddey for hitting that game when it shot the other night against the Lakers, but you keep getting guys like that who aren't great but will keep you in contention and keep you still, winning to a degree. You're in a situation where you're not putting yourself in the best advantageous place, tanking is what I'm saying, place, to win. Because, the Bulls are good enough to where they can win 35, 38 games and make the playoffs. The problem is that's not where you want to be. You want to be a 40, 50 win team contending for the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end. And I just feel like they're like a couple teams, my Kings included, where you could rebuild, but if you rebuild, that puts you back further, and then, people may lose hope, and who knows. So everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to make the playoffs, so I totally get it. But up until the All-Star break, the Giddey trade could have been deemed a bust. He's played better since the All-Star break, so we'll see how that all shapes out. And like I said, they've been trying to hit the reset button, but it seems like the reset keeps getting reset itself, so who knows. And last but not least would be the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference as far as worst teams. The Jimmy Butler trade has benefited no immediate fruit whatsoever for you. You didn't pay him, and anybody with a brain knew that when Pat Riley was talking shit in the offseason, talking about how Jimmy, if he's not playing, he's a shut up, that should have been a clue right then and there in itself that the divorce was on the way. It was kind of like the worst kept secret throughout the whole offseason. We, Bill Simmons and, aficionados, other aficionados alike, we're talking about this all offseason. Now, this is something that was going to potentially play out. I didn't feel like the Heat, pardon me. I feel like Miami Heat didn't really prepare and do the things necessary to put themselves in an advantageous situation to be better. And now Jimmy's gone. You paid Bam Adebayo. You paid Tyler Hero. Hero and Robinson are defensive liabilities. Bam Adebayo, though he is good, is at best a second or third, role player. He is not the guy. And you don't even know who the guy is. You got problems. And if you're Miami, you can sell the real estate and the women and the scene, but damn. You got to sell me on a little bit more when I just saw Jimmy Butler help get you to 2 finals appearances and he couldn't get the payday. Yeah, I get it, he injured. I get it. But damn. Like, we ain't really doing shit to really, get the great talent in here. You could have had Dame Lillard. Could have had Dame. And whether that been the Trailblazers not willing to make the move or not liking enough back in collateral for what you were willing to offer, the Heat have to find their guy and quickly because I'm not sure the Heat culture is going to last as currently constructed. And looking at the worst in the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns. Major disappointment. It goes without saying. If you're looking at as it's currently constructed, they're definitely going to be in a play-in tournament. They're currently 35 and 39. They're right behind the Sacramento Kings. So they're in the play-in tournament. However, can you trust them? They suck defensively. Offensively, they've been inconsistent. A lot of speculation throughout the year that Bradley Beal was going to get traded. A lot of speculation throughout the year that Kevin Durant was going to get traded. Neither happened. And shout out to Bradley Beal for not waiving that no trade clause. I feel like guys, if they have more control and autonomy, guys should do that a lot more often. If you traded for me and just because shit's not going right now, you want to get rid of me because you feel like it's more advantageous to cut your losses. Fuck you. Nope, I'm not going nowhere. You're going to pay me and I'm going to sit on this bench and still collect my money and still produce. Nowhere near the player he once was, but I got to give Bill credit because he's, finally somebody's making one of these NBA franchises pay for that no trade clause shit, which I never understand why you would throw that in a guy's contract. Well, that's an incentive that he really wants. Yeah, fuck that. I may trade him. I can't guarantee that I wouldn't. I may trade him. So, Going a bit further, the Dallas Mavericks, they're currently ninth right now. They're right ahead of Sacramento at 37 and 38 for the playing game, which is a half game ahead of Sacramento. What a disaster. I mean, trading lukadoncic, which is possibly the worst move, and may go down as one of the worst NBA trades for the Mavericks of all time. One of the worst, front office decisions ever. The front office didn't want to pay him. Nico Harrison, went through with the move, got AD. Kyrie gets injured after that, tears his ACL. I mean, it just, when it rains, it pours for the Mavericks. The situation went from bad to worse, like that. And then AD, like I said, I give him so much props because at least he's coming back to play, in spite of the injury, in spite of what potentially may happen. But this team can still make the playoffs. So definitely got to give him props for that and his effort that he's going to show and try to give this team to elevate them. Next, this one is near and dear to my heart, would be the Sacramento Kings. Definitely a major disappointment. For one, your team didn't elevate after getting DeMar DeRozan. That's definitely a disappointment. Two, De'Aaron Fox having to be traded after 8 years of service was heartbreaking but necessary. In that trade, you secured a 2031 first-round pick from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Will that pick even be worth a damn, being that, I don't know, it's 2025? It's about 6 years away. Don't know what the hell that may amount to. And then, of course, you got Zach LaVine in your future. So it looks like, they're going to run it with DeRozan and LaVine and Sabonis and, a couple of these guys. And I'll be honest with you. I like the lineup when Sabonis was healthy and how they were running things. Of course, when he got injured, the team suffered a bit. But defensively, this team sucks. And they've just been a disappointment. And remember, Mike Brown got fired because he was bringing these things up. It was one of the things that he brought up. But yeah, major disappointment. And even if the Kings do win their playing games, are they going to win a series? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So definitely a disappointment there. And last but not least, we're wrapping up the worst teams in the Western Conference. It's definitely got to be, the New Orleans Pelicans. From Zion Williamson's health and wanting to play, not wanting to play type situation, fucking dragging your feet on Brandon Ingram trade and eventually getting Brandon Ingram out of there. New Orleans is really a football town. They're not really a basketball town. So I feel for the Pelicans because they may have a situation where if they had competent ownership or better ownership, I should say, because I don't want to say that the Benson family is incompetent. They've gotten the Saints to a relevant standing and consistent standing. I'll say if they had better ownership with better GMs, maybe there'd be a situation where this team would really be contending. But Zion, I see why guys, clamored over him in the draft. I see why this team wanted him, but he has not been healthy for you in the least bit. When he has been on the floor, he's been one of the most exciting players in basketball. That being said, he has been on the floor consistently. Hard resets needed for this team. I mean, hell, look at the weaponry that they have around Zion. CJ McCollum, I'm sorry, he's not it. He's a good role player, but he is not it. Not it. And Willie Green and them, they got their hands full down there in New Orleans. Interested to see how all that shapes out. And before I wrap up this episode, I definitely want to make sure that I touch on the craziness that was Taylor Jenkins being fired by the Memphis Grizzlies unceremoniously and pretty much just giving his pink slip and the walking papers. Now, from the research and intel that I could gather, this is something that had been brewing since last offseason. The Grizzlies kind of felt like Taylor Jenkins, for lack of better words, let some things within the culture slide, alluding to John Morant's behavior and the team not really being prepared or situated outside of John Morant, meaning depth-wise. They made this man fire his whole staff. Bit rough. He brings in this French guy who comes and helps them, and offensively they go from being, middle of the pack to sixth best in the league, top 7 offense. Defensively, they're one of the most efficient teams in the league, but, two sides of every coin. Essentially, they argue the fact that his record in the playoffs wasn't that great, which was 9-14, speaking of Taylor Jenkins. His record this year against winning teams was 11-20. I gotta be honest. If Memphis really thought they were going to be worth a damn after last season, after the way they played with Ja being out and the injuries that they had, they're fucking delusional. Fucking delusional. And then as far as a winning record against winning teams this year, that kind of, when you have your star player get suspended and stunts your growth for a year, some of the things that you may have should have went through a year ago, you're not going through until now. So I definitely have John Morant culpable for some of that. But Vice President of Basketball Operations, Zach Kleiman, essentially said that changes were needed, and this is where we are. Crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a coach get fired this late in the season with so much on the line, and in the playoffs, kind of like lingering in the background, still fighting for seeding as well. Definitely not something that I'm used to seeing, but I guess we'll probably be seeing more of it in the NBA, but definitely shocking. I definitely think Taylor Jenkins is going to land on his feet and get a coaching job going into next season, but Grizzlies are definitely not playing, man. They're putting the pressure on, so I'm interested to see how all that will shape out. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. This NBA end of season review. I thank you guys for always listening and watching. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.